The Pear Affair, Chapter 10. The boy's name was ch.10, and he was training to be a petit pâtissier. His parents owned a boulangerie chez Ben-Amour in Rue des Martyrs, and all summer, while there was no school, he was learning how to make pastries. He had perfected all the Arabian classics, and now he was moving on to French favourites. Voila, he said, and with the air of a magician, produced 5 squashed millefeuilles out of his satchel. The twins groaned appreciatively. 3 layers of puff pastry sandwiched together with 2 layers of vanilla cream. Papa says to make these takes great skill and daring. ch.10 caught Nell's eye, and his mouth, which had turned up at the corners as he described the cakes, turned down again. I haven't got one for you. Give her Nedges, said Paulette. Zav gave her Nedges sausage, didn't you, Zav? You must be nice too. Why are you so sulky? It doesn't matter, started Nell, but Paul was laying his pastry down on the table and crossing his fingers the way children do to protect themselves from the lurgy. It's infected with the thing, he said. Paulette giggled and joined in. Thing, they crowed. It was exactly what the children in Belleville had said, thought Nell, a sort of joke, but ch.10 reacted furiously. It is not, he said. I told you, Maman keeps everything spotless. It's only dirty places that catch the thing. They're joking, ch.10, said Xavier, jabbing ch.10 in the ribs. What's got into you? I told you, I'm mad. It's taken me nearly an hour to get here. I had to use the entrance in the crypt at Église Saint-Jacques, and then there were puddles nearly all the way here, splashing my whites. As he spoke, ch.10 passed Nell a cake, and she accepted it, the layers squidging together as she took a bite. The sweet flakiness made it impossible to eat without a smile. Do any of you live down here, with no parents? Asked Nell. Perhaps she could hide down here too. As long as the torches were lit, she'd be okay. It's not the Victorian times, you know, scoffed ch.10. We do all have homes. Nell looked at him, wondering why he was so prickly. He seemed to have taken against her, and she didn't know why. Yes, but in the olden days people did live down here, said Paul. All sorts, robbers, runaways, even mushroom farmers. There are zillions of miles of passages, said Xavier, springing up, perfect for hiding in or getting lost. Look! He dug about in one of the crates and drew out a handful of squiggle-covered postcards. With a jolt, Nell saw that the squiggles were the same drawings she had seen on display in Michel's boiler room. Whenever I can, I go exploring and map it all out, said Xavier proudly. Nell took the maps and leafed through them. They looked like intricately drawn mazes, with teeny tiny arrows marking out particular routes, and minuscule writing that said things like puddles and loose chippings, and even one that said, beware flooded cavern. These are really good, she said, and she meant it. It must take you ages. It's easier than it looks, said Xavier. Most of the tunnels mirror the streets above. Some of them even have the same road names already scratched into the stone. And now, ch.10 kicked the wall, releasing a cloud of dust that made Nell cough. The mayor wants to take it away from us. He was glaring at her as though it was all her fault. Why can't he just leave us alone? The mayor, echoed Nell. Where had she heard that name before? Oh, that was it. After the bun incident, Melinda had said she and Gerald were having lunch with him. She decided to keep this information to herself. Her new friends all appeared to be scowling at their mere mention of his name. Xavier had left the table and was rummaging through one of the boxes on the shelves. He drew out a newspaper and flicked through the pages until he found what he was looking for. Read that and you'll see, said Xavier. Aloud, added Paulette, so we can hear it again. Nell smoothed the page out. The date at the top read, Thursday, 29th May, 1969. For decades, the tunnels below Paris have been the unchallenged playground of the city's children. This subterranean paradise, once used by French resistance fighters hiding out during the war, dates back 500 years when limestone quarries were first mined to build our great city. But since being elected last year, the mayor, Monsieur Henri, has made it his mission to bring an end to the young people's reign underground. Yesterday, at a conference entitled Better Lives for Our Children, he elaborated on his plans. Parents should not be allowing their children to roam below the city, he said. Scientists have expressed concern at the foul air. Some would call it a miasma, carrying germs and other harmful properties. From the 1st of June, the municipal department will be closing down all entrances to subterranean Paris. I want our city to be cleaner, brighter, and for our children to flourish in the open air. This doesn't mean playing in the street is a suitable alternative, and we will be clamping down on this habit in the near future. Instead, I will be building municipal playgrounds for our children with fences and gates to keep them secure. Remember, I am doing this solely for the health and well-being of our little ones. What does he know about our health? Exploded Xavier. I've only ever had chickenpox, and I caught that from my cousin who lives in Bordeaux. I wasn't anywhere near Paris or the tunnels. I had tonsillitis once, said Paul. Oh, don't exaggerate. It was just a sore throat, corrected Paulette. What is a miasma? Asked Soutine. A stink, said Nell, who had learned all about cholera at school and how people had once thought diseases were caused by poisonous vapours that smelled bad. No one believes in it anymore. Diseases are spread by germs, not bad air. This mayor of yours should know that. She folded the newspaper and handed it back to Xavier. It doesn't smell down here, said Paul. Except of nice things like sausages, said Paulette. That's lying, that is. Nell sniffed. Now that the aroma of sizzling sausages had gone, there was a bit of a musty tinge to the air, but it was only an old cavey sort of smell, which you probably got used to after a while. The mayor sounded really mean. The den was lovely. Why would anyone want to close it down? That's why Xavier thought of the dogs, said Paulette. Scare those municipal department men off if they ever dare to come down here again. Why are you boring her with it all? Huffed Soutine. She doesn't care. Look, I've got to go. I promised Papa I'd help with the next batch of bread. Will you lot come round tomorrow and help break open my entrance again? Is he always so cross? Asked Nell as she followed Xavier up the ladder and back into the boiler room. It was already 9 o'clock in the evening, and the others had gone home to second suppers and warm beds. Is he always so cross? Asked Nell as she followed Xavier up the ladder and back into the boiler room. It was already 9 o'clock in the evening, and the others had gone home to second suppers and warm beds. Xavier had said she could tag along with him. He said he knew a place where she could stay. The boiler room welcomed them with a comforting thrum. Soutine, I mean. Just recently, said Xavier. It's the thing. He says he's not worried, but he is. He acts like he doesn't care and goes on about his shop being immune because his parents keep it so clean. But he's seen the news like the rest of us. When it strikes, it strikes. Whatever it is, it sets in, and no one's worked out how to get rid of it yet. Nell pictured the boulangerie in Belleville, the one she'd seen earlier in the day, its doors closed, its interior dark. Emile had said that it had shut down because of the thing. She wondered what would happen to all the bread makers and the shopkeepers, the people whose livelihoods had been destroyed just like that, crash bang. No wonder Soutine was anxious. Those children you were talking about, Mimi and Gil, the ones you took the buns for, she said. The Bernards, said Xavier. Their boulangerie was closed because of the thing, and they couldn't pay the rent. They're holed up in a cavern near Montparnasse. Not for long, just until they get themselves sorted. I take Mimi and Gil cakes and buns when I can. Nell wasn't sure if she had heard right. An actual family underground. But Paul said people only lived down here in the olden days. Yeah, until this thing started, said Xavier, heaving the cover back over the manhole. It clanged noisily as it slotted into place. Xav, Nell whispered, in case anyone else was down here. I can't afford to stay in the hotel. I've run out of money. Besides, my parents are bound to have come back looking for the bag. I can't let them find me before I find Pear. I can't. I told you I've got an idea, and I have, said Zav. Look, come this way. Nell followed Xavier out of the boiler room and further along the brick-walled corridor to a room that smelled of soap and steam and hot irons. Ta-da! It's the laundry, announced Xavier, opening the doors of a vast cupboard that spanned an entire wall. The cupboard was lined with immense shelves piled high with snowy white sheets. Your parents will never find you down here, he said, and you can pretend you're in a ship's cabin. The housekeeper, Charlotte, doesn't start until 9. She'll never know. Nell looked doubtfully at her proposed sleeping quarters. It was true that the shelves were as wide and long as a small bed, but still, a cupboard. But I don't want to get you into trouble, she said. I won't tell my grandpa, he said. If he knew you were here all on your own, he'd... Tell the authorities, finished Nell. No, Xavier looked shocked. He'd say you must stay with us. But if the hotel found out, they'd go ballistic. He can't be harbouring runaways or he'll lose his job. Look, did you say your friend worked at a place called Crown Couture? Yes, said Nell. It's just I know someone who might be able to help. Oh, Zav. She'd been right to follow him down into the tunnels. When can we go? I've got my shift here tomorrow morning, and then I've got to meet the others at ch.10 to break into ch.10's entrance, he said, thinking. But we could do with a lookout. Do you want to help? And then we can go after that. After Xavier had gone, Nell lay awake for ages. If it was true that Pear had stolen something from a client at Crown Couture, then what had she stolen, and why had she stolen it? Nell racked her brains, trying to remember if there had been any clues in the last letter she had received from Pear. She yawned as tiredness engulfed her. The bed was comfortable. There was room to stretch out or curl up, and Xavier had left the door ajar so she could glimpse a reassuring chink of light. A soft silence surrounded her, punctuated by the occasional tick of the heating and the sound of her breath, which gradually lengthened and deepened as sleep crept closer. Nell rearranged herself into her favourite position, like a stork, with one leg straight and the other hooked up, foot to knee. It had been a tumultuous day. Things hadn't gone to plan, but she had escaped Melinda and Gerald, and she had made friends. Nell squeezed her eyes shut and conjured up her patchwork of Pear. Pear snuggled up to her in bed telling her stories. Pear tossing pancakes and getting one stuck to the ceiling. Pear trying to walk up the London Underground escalators when they were going down. Tomorrow she was going to be a lookout. She would help Zav and then he would help her. The thought filled her with hope. Maybe tomorrow she would find Pear.